This took place when I was still in college. At the time, I was very new to the school, so I was very lonely and didn't really know anybody. I saw some guys putting some invitation cards on the walls to a college party. The party was being held in somebody's home, and the home appeared to be in the country, not too far from the university. I figured this could be a great opportunity to make some friends, and possibly just have a good time, as being in college can be very frustrating and tough. On the date of the party, I got myself ready to head over. It took time at 6 p.m. The sun just started to go down. I had a road legalized 300 Kawasaki. It was a pretty sweet bike, and I always used it to get to my destinations. So that's what I was using to head over to the house, in the woods. And like I mentioned earlier, this house was in the country, which was the deep forest region of the area. But I didn't really care that much. I just wanted to have a fun time. I typed in the address on my phone and then turned on the GPS and began my way over to the house. The GPS took me to a lot of backside roads and then eventually took me into the country roads, which were surrounded by trees on both sides. However, this particular road was actually very nice. As most country roads aren't, this one was actually paved, so the riding was easy. I arrived at the house in 16 minutes and I took a look at it. It was a decent sized house, about 3 stories high and pretty wide, with a pretty decent property as well. But it was literally in the middle of a forest clearing, in the middle of nowhere. I parked my motorcycle next to all the other cars that were there. I could hear the music blasting from inside the house, and I began to get excited, knowing that this was going to be a fun time. And boy, indeed it was a fun time. We did so much at the party. We ate some good food, we partied and danced and laughed, and then we went outside and played a lot of fun night games. I was partying so much that I didn't even pay attention to the clock, and by the next time I checked it, I realized that it was 2 a.m. I guess it was time to call it for the night, so I went outside to my motorcycle and kick-started it up. I waved goodbye to all my friends as I rode off into the night. While riding on the smooth, paved road I was on, I really began to feel the beauty of the entire forest surroundings as I rode through them. It was a full moon, there was no wind, no rain, and no cars for as far as the eye could see. The breeze blowing through my sleeved leather-jacketed arms and my helmeted masked face, I could feel the beauty of this entire forest. I also found it very satisfying the sound of my engine pistons pushing up and down as I revved the motorcycle down the road. The moonlight shining through the tree lines at my side as I glanced over made the forest look even more beautiful and enchanted as it was. But as I looked back at the road, I saw something down the road that was reflecting off my light. At first, I assumed that it was just an animal crossing the road, but as I got closer, I realized it wasn't an animal. It was actually a person, and as I got closer, I realized it was a woman. I began to make out some features about her. She was wearing a long, white, dirty dress with long black hair that was covering most of her face, and from what I could tell, her skin looked very pale. And she was just standing there, right in the middle of the road, with her right arm waving in the air, as if she was signaling for me to stop. I pulled over to the right side of the road and came to a halt. The woman slowly approached me as I asked her what was wrong. She told me in kind of a hoarse voice that her house was just up the street and that she needed a ride. A red flag went off in my head at that moment. I realized there were no homes on this road. I have been down this road before, and the nearest home from where I could have been was about 5 miles away. So what did she mean by her house was just up the road? I shrugged it off. I figured that it wasn't too big of a deal. I'd still give her a ride. So I told her to jump on the back of my bike. But the next thing that happened is something I still don't understand to this day, and it scares me deeply thinking about it. When the woman approached me, I glanced down, and I went wide-eyed when I saw her feet. This woman was not ordinary. Her feet were deformed, contorted, bent, twisted. The bones were sticking out of her skin, oozing dark, red blood, spilling out onto the asphalt road. I could see a bunch of scars and cuts up and down her legs. And what's even worse, she wasn't even touching the ground. She was floating. Her feet were 5 inches off the ground, like a ghost. I slowly lifted my head and looked at her face. and ever so slightly, as she locked eyes onto mine, I saw a grin begin to spread across her lips. I was shocked. I didn't know what to do next. I kicked my bike into first gear, pulled the gas, threw out the clutch, and popped a wheelie as I floored it down the road, never looking back. I sped all the way home, put my bike in the garage, closed the garage door, and ran into the house and slammed the door behind me and locked it real tight, still shaking after what I'd just seen. I ran up to my bedroom and locked that door as well. I sat down on the bed, still breathing frantically, and began to think over what I just saw. What did I just see? Was that a hallucination? It couldn't be. It felt so real. I was really speaking to a woman, and I saw her and heard her speak back to me. I couldn't have hallucinated it. Was she a ghost? I don't know for sure. I still don't know to this day. But being that this was late at night, I decided to man up a bit and just forget about it. Wake up the next morning and laugh it off that it was just a dream. And just like that, I went to bed. In about 20 minutes' time, I fell asleep. Only to wake up, I think just an hour before sunrise. And as I woke up, I felt very uneased. I got the sickening feeling that I was being watched. As I looked around the room, I picked up on the fact that the room was very, very cold, even under my sheets. I began to shiver as I looked more and more frantically around my room, and my eyes stopped when I looked at the corner of my room, just next to my open door. I saw a figure, the silhouette of a woman. It looked just like the woman that I had seen back at the road in the forest. I couldn't move. I was so scared. The figure began to hover towards me. I choked the urge to scream, but nothing came out. I lay there, frozen in my bed, in unimaginable horror as the figure was towering over me, inches away from my face. When it was right above me, my eyes adjusted, and I could see that it was the same woman from the road, staring right into my soul. All of a sudden, she just threw her hands around my throat. Not squeezing, but she was holding me down. I looked up at her in fear, and she said to me, in a demonic, evil voice, and this sound has never left my mind. She said, "You made the right decision.